is 6:30. Is this thing on? It is. I'll call to order the August 18, 2021 Cedarburg School Board meeting. This is a regular meeting of the Cedarburg School Board and is a public meeting. Prior notices have been placed in the district and additional copies were forwarded to the city and town of Cedarburg, as well as the news graphic and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, the first item on the agenda is the school board committee structure and special assignment proposal. This was circulated in board docs, and I think we just need to have a motion to approve it, which I would entertain at this time, unless anyone has any questions or concerns.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Recognitions, none. Consent agenda, Mr. Brugnacki.
Thank you. Board members, I'd ask that you approve the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes from the July 21st school board meeting, also the budget and finance report, which includes financial information, summary of accounts, check register, check detail, and credit card transaction report, and also the personnel report, which Mr. Farner, Director of HR, is here to share with you.
This evening we have a few contracts for approval and one resignation. We'd ask tonight that the board approve the resignation of Taylor Schmidt and then approve contracts for Natalie Hahn, Patrick Hamill, Fiona O'Keefe, and Brittany Ward.
So moved. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. I should have mentioned early on that item number 9 appears on our agenda. It is an adjournment into executive session, but we're advised that we do not need to adjourn into executive session after this meeting, so that we're not going to be having an executive session, in case anyone cared. But okay, so now we have superintendent notes.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. This evening, I'm going to provide an update on the start of the 2021 school year. There's a presentation. Board members, yours is in front of you. Guests, you can look beyond us and see the screen. I have a number of slides that I'm going to walk through to update the board on our plan for the start of the school year. This plan is very similar to the plan that we had last month and continues to evolve and morph as we gather more information and navigate the summer and plan for the start of the school year. We're excited to start the school year. Tomorrow we welcome our new teachers back. I should say I welcome new teachers to the district. We have a number of new teachers that are going to be in this room, so it's new teacher orientation. We welcome all the teachers back on August 24th. Athletics is in full swing, so we have soccer, volleyball, tennis, golf, cross country, and our first football game is this Friday night home against Port. It's exciting to see our students walking the halls here at the high school with their schedules as they try to read their schedules, those who are new to the high school, and try to navigate the lockers, and open their lockers. I've been called to help on opening some lockers as I make my way through the halls, which is pretty exciting to test my skills from back when I was in school. But it's really very exciting to see our students in the halls and our teachers here and our parents as we prepare for the start of the school year. This slide that you're looking at right now is a picture of our Jump Start program. This is the first year we held Jump Start at West Lawn Elementary School. It was a program for West Lawn and Parkview students to get a jump on the start of the school year. We had over 60 students participate in the program, and we had 30 high school volunteers assist with that program, which is outstanding. It was a very successful program. We hope to replicate the program again next year. A shout out to Mrs. Ramos, who's the principal at West Lawn. She led the charge as far as being the on-site administrator principal during the 4-week program. So we're excited to just wrap that up this week. The next slide, I just wanted to continue to focus on access, quality, and safety. We brought these themes forward last year, and we're going to continue and celebrate and focus on these themes as we enter this year. It is something that we take serious when we talk about access, quality, and safety, and we know that there's a changing environment, so we're very attentive to that environment. The information that we are using this year is the same information that we used last year. We're consulting the same data sources. We will continue to monitor our school data. We'll continue to monitor our local data, our county data, and state and national data. Those are all sources of information for us to make determinations on how best to service our students here in an in-person environment. We will also continue to collect our data internally. Last year we had a very public dashboard that everyone had access to, and we are going to continue to gather information internally so we can make well-informed decisions. It's important that we monitor student attendance and other areas and issues that may surface relative to student attendance and staff attendance. We do that in a non-pandemic time, and we're going to continue to do that now because that's how we make informed decisions. So behind the scenes, we will continue to gather the data and have a dashboard that we can review, and it will help us make informed decisions as we enter the school year. Our instructional program will mirror pre-pandemic times. Our current program does not call for teachers to work in a blended environment. If you recall last year, teachers had a blended environment so they could have 15 kids in front of them and they could have 10 kids online, and they're navigating both of those environments at the same time simultaneously. This year, the board has directed me to have an in-person experience only, and that's where we are focused with all of our energy. If there is a need to have an out-of-school experience for someone with an underlying medical condition, they can apply for a medical exemption, and we will provide that instruction. But our resources right now are focused on a quality experience for those who are in person. This next slide, I just want to reiterate that we did have a very successful summer school program. It ran from June 21st to July 22nd. I had over 1,000 students in attendance, and we did have mitigation measures in place that mirrored the regular school year. Very successful, very pleased with how that program operated and how we ended. I had mentioned the Jump Start program, again, just highlighting the fact that it was a program that went from August 2nd to August 19th. Over 55, I had said 60, 55 elementary students, 30 high school volunteers. It was a great success. And our mitigation measures there will mirror what we have in place for this school year. So a lot of what I will share regarding the measures were in place, and masks were optional during that time period, and students were masked and staff were masked, those who chose to be masked. And it worked out well. It was a very respectful environment. Kids were in a flow, staff were in a flow, and the masking or the mitigation measures did not disrupt the instruction that was being provided during that time. So a very successful program. That's a program, as I mentioned, I think we will probably continue in years to come. It's helping us address a little bit of that COVID gap, if you will, for our students who maybe need that additional jump start. And we're excited that we had such success and are looking forward to continuing that program next year. This slide is just a snapshot of our current measures, and I'll go into greater detail on the next slide. I think the takeaway here is that we are planning for a regular school year with regular schedules, routines, and activities. As I mentioned at the last board meeting, there is a caveat here. There are some efficiencies that we gained, some efficiencies we discovered in a COVID environment that may continue this year. And I used the example last board meeting regarding parent-teacher conferences, a great example. We received a lot of favorable feedback on conferences that were held online, a Google conference. Parents didn't have to leave work, they didn't have to travel here, they could have the conference on a Google Hangout. And so there are things like that that are probably going to continue. And it was good during the pandemic, and it's going to be good after the pandemic, just because it's an efficient practice. It's one that's good for students, good for staff, and good for the learning community. So I say this because I don't want parents or staff to be surprised if there's some things that we're holding on to. Another example would be last year we had, I believe, 4 lunch periods at the high school. Pre-pandemic, we had 3. Once we had developed our new cafeteria here at the high school, we were planning to go to 2 lunch periods. But we're going to stick with 3 this year, just so we can get the flow of the space. And then next year, 22-23, we anticipate going to 2 lunch periods. But that's just part of what we do, continuously improving and assessing the landscape to make the best decisions for our students, given all that we know. So there are some changes that will certainly occur as we work through this year, but there are some practices that we're going to continue. I will say that the WIA has some guidance out there, and John Hannum, our AD, is working with other ADs in our conference and making certain that we are all aligned to the extent possible. We know that there are schools within our conference that have mitigation measures in place that are different than ours. And right now, the understanding is that if we travel to a school and their mitigation measures are different than ours, then we would follow their mitigation measures on site. That seems like the best practice. I think there's agreement amongst the ADs and the superintendents. And if a school travels here, they would follow our mitigation measures, or they can have something more in place if they want to carry something from their district here. So we're working out those details. We're excited that we have a full season of sports here in the fall planned, and most of those details have been worked out. Regarding the forecast, there has been some conversation about masking on school buses, and we are in the midst of working with our legal team to get clarification. There's greater clarity needed on authority and liability. And so we are waiting to hear from our legal department on how best to navigate those areas once the school year begins. As it stands right now, the masking on the bus will mirror what we are expecting during the school year, so they will be optional on the bus. And I say that because we have activities that are starting tomorrow that require bus transportation. We have new teacher orientation, and our new teachers take a bus ride around Cedarburg to get to know the community. Has to be optional. We have sport teams that are traveling on buses, and so we needed to make a decision, so we made the decision to just mirror the practices that we're going to have in place for the school year, mask optional. Once we get some guidance from our legal team, I'll bring that to the board, and the board can decide what steps, if any, changes need to be taken. Lastly on the slide, just noted the last bullet there, medical exemption. I had mentioned that earlier, that is available online. The application is there. So families who are interested and require a medical exemption can apply for that. On this particular slide, you can see a bit more detail about the mitigation measures that we have in place for this year. We know that vaccines are available for those qualifying ages, which is 12 and up. They're readily available from physicians, and the health department can provide guidance. So that is something that is in place, and I just want to make certain that everyone is clear on that. Ventilation, we do have state-of-the-art HVAC, circulation, ventilation systems here. John Coster, Director of Buildings and Grounds, is here, and he'll speak a little bit to that on the next slide. But that is certainly a significant part of our measures that we have in place. Hand washing and respiratory etiquette, just want everyone to know that we will have access to sanitation, hand washing stations throughout the building and outside. We invested in those systems last year, and we'll make certain that those are all readily available to our students. Contact tracing is an area that we continue to explore. Where we stand right now is that we will notify if there's a positive case, and that communication will be sent to the class, the grade level, or perhaps the entire school. It becomes a little bit different to navigate it at the high school when you have students traveling throughout the building, because you could have a sophomore who attends classes with a junior or seniors, vice versa. So we are working with the high school principal on how best to do that to ensure that everyone is notified. There was a question about can we contact trace in the classroom, so those who are within 6 feet of a positive case. And because masks are optional, it becomes a bit challenging because students are up moving around the classroom unmasked, and so teachers can be working with students at a back table, some can be masked, some can be unmasked, and so contact tracing becomes a bit more complicated in an environment where masks are optional. Thus, the reason we landed that we would send out a notice to the entire class, grade level, or school. That seems like the most efficient way to do that. That's where it stands right now. We may make a pivot and bring it back to the board for some additional guidance on that. The other item I just wanted to note about contact tracing is quarantine. Right now, we are expecting those who need to quarantine to self-quarantine. If you're a positive case, if you're positive and tested positive, then you are going to be required to isolate per the guidance from the health department, and our nurse, Nicole Kafta, will certainly be in touch with those who have been identified as positive. As it stands right now, the self-quarantine is where it stands, so we're not going to mandate that students quarantine, but we will identify those who are positive and make certain that they isolate for the appropriate time. Access to instructional materials, if you are self-quarantined or isolated, will be through Canvas. And at the elementary school, the material will be available in Canvas and or provided by the school. Similar to if a student is absent due to an illness prior to the pandemic, students will pick up material. And that's where we're starting out. And we'll continue to monitor that, and if we need to make a change and pivot on that, we certainly will do that. Cleaning and maintaining healthy facilities, we are hiring additional cleaners, and they've been secured, and we'll continue to focus on sanitizing and cleaning our spaces and using the latest technologies. Again, Mr. Koster will touch on that. Face mask use is optional right now in the district, then we respect parent choice. And where it says we will provide support and guidance for those who choose to wear face coverings, just want to make it clear that we know that students who want to wear a mask and come to school wearing a mask, we want to make certain that students are wearing a mask properly. So we'll provide support and guidance. What we don't want to do is police that to an extent where the teacher is having to continuously police and then instruction is compromised. So where there's going to be some support, as there is for any student who comes to school with any type of concern that a parent brings to our attention and anything that may need additional attention. But I want to be mindful that we'll provide support, but we're not going to be in the environment of policing those students who need to wear a mask. Physical distancing, we will continue to distance to the extent possible. The classrooms will resemble what it looked like last year and pre-pandemic. And I say that because there are some classrooms pre-pandemic where there was 2, 3, 4 feet between classes, between students, and there was that distance last year during the pandemic as well. So we are going to allow the classroom structure and format to be laid out according to the instructional offerings that the teacher has. So you might find students who are clustered together. You may find students that are spaced out because that's the way in which the teacher so desires to provide instruction. Depends on the content, depends on the subject, depends on the activities. So that will vary, and that's why it says it will vary. And the last bullet here is screening and testing. Testing is readily available through the Washington Ozaki Public Health Department, and if there is anyone who is symptomatic, we will certainly direct them to the health department for guidance from the health department. The next slide is the health and safety measures, and I've asked Director John Koster of Buildings and Grounds just to touch on some of these items.
Good evening. First of all, these are all physical plant items that we're going to be dealing with, so for the majority of these bullets, it's based upon how we handle things within the Building and Grounds Department, the physical plant. It was easy for us to transition to this because the process that we follow with our staff and how they're trained is beyond reproach. We are a top-level cleaning service, if you will. Our staff is very well trained. We have all the knowledge, and now we just expanded that going into the COVID situation. And unfortunately, we got really good at it because we had to deal with it for a year where we really didn't have students, and then an additional year where we're going to be going into this with students, it's going to be really easy for us to transition. So some of the items I want to talk about, the board has heard this before, but for the public it might be very interesting as to the levels that we take this and what the board has approved. First of all, we have mobile ultraviolet unit sanitizers. These are units that go around that we rotate throughout the classrooms, and they eradicate the classrooms and they sanitize those. So you do that nightly. We have at least 12 of those units throughout the district, depending upon the function of them. They rotate and they operate every night. So we're sanitizing those, not only hand sanitizing, cleaning, disinfecting classrooms like we normally do on rotation, but we also elevate that with the UV light portable sanitizers. Our HVAC system has got 24/7 eradication of the coils, which, if people have heard of Legionnaire's disease, it eliminates anything like that, but it also, the upside to this is that it eradicates and kills any type of single pass kill rate, kills any type of bacteria, including COVID, which is really a fragile bacteria, if you will. So it's easy to destroy. And when that goes through that, we enhanced our UV light system, which was already in place, and we built it up to the point where it's now single pass kill rate. So any air passing through there kills any bacteria that goes through. So all the air coming through, which is on the preceding bullet here, you'll see it's 6 to 10 air exchanges. 6 to 10 air exchanges per hour is purified air that's coming through those classrooms. I liken this to what a hospital would have in an operating room, which is unheard of in a school district. Increased outside air, we elevated and ramped up because of CDC and all the guidelines that we've been following. They chose to want to elevate and increase the outside air, so we did. We elevated that up. What does that mean for us? That's increased cost because you have to temper that air, you have to purify that air. All that air coming in now has to be dealt with and controlled. When you get into cold days, we're normally at 5%, we ramped it up to 15%. So we have 15% fresh air coming in, which is above the CDC standards and within line with the ASHRAE guidelines. 6 to 10 air exchanges per classroom per hour. Again, that's a designed system that you have in your buildings. Our buildings are newly designed, so we're not going off of old standards. A lot of school districts that you're hearing about that have to spend millions and millions of dollars on their HVAC system are because their systems are 40, 50 years old. We've been elevating these and repairing these and upgrading these as we've been moving along throughout the years. So our 10-year, 5-year plan and our process that we follow allowed us to make this transition rather easy. MERV filters, 13 MERV, we were running at 8 MERV, and MERV is just a level of filtration. I got an email today from an individual wanting to kind of clarify this, but the filters don't kill COVID, they simply filter it out and assist to filter it out. The recommendation is to go to 13 MERV filters, which is the highest that we can go with our HVAC system. Understanding that the higher you go on the MERV, the more resistance you have in drag on the air, which makes it more difficult to push air through, but we still have to push that air through at a certain level. So you're working the motor harder, you're working the system harder, and that's where we're at right now. We have all 13 MERV filters, again, state-of-the-art, top-notch quality air filters. Clorox 360 electrostatic foggers, these are backpack foggers as well as mobile foggers. We go around, we spray and eradicate the rooms and kill. The electrostatic portion of it, what it does, it allows you to spray the top of a table and it actually circles around electrostatically and clings to the bottom. So when you get the fingers and the touching and everything underneath, when you electrostatically, when you treat that, all that disinfectant clings to the bottom as opposed to having to go underneath and spray it. So again, state-of-the-art equipment. Electrostatic disinfectant, wide area backpack sprayers, microfiber cloths and mops. The microfiber is nothing more than a towel, a device, what allows us to pick up and clean and sanitize and pick up more dirt and debris. It's again, state-of-the-art, but we're all microfiber throughout the district. Hand washing stations, Todd spoke to. Hand sanitizers, they're throughout the schools. Triple filter backpack vacuums. This is something that's pretty important because every day you're vacuuming every square foot of this facility. We've now converted to, instead of the corded ones, we went to battery operated to make it easy. If you make it easier for people, they want to use it, they will use it, and that's what we've converted to. So we have state-of-the-art vacuums that are cordless, and you'll see the people rotating around throughout the evenings as you mitigate through our schools. And additional cleaners we spoke to. We have what we call a COVID cleaning team. Those guys are gals, whoever it might be, are located in the schools. We have an additional cleaner per school, per day while kids are in the school that goes around. And he's simply there, or she's simply there to sanitize the facility and work on helping and assisting with lunchroom programs, things like that. We are looking for people, so if anybody needs a job, contact the Building and Grounds Department. That's my pitch. We got 2 weeks, and we're pushing hard to come and apply. See Dawn in the Building and Grounds Department, we're hiring. That's it.
Thanks, John.
Okay.
So board members, just a couple other items, and then I'll open up to questions from the board. We continue just to, as I said, monitor the data, and we are examining a layered mitigation approach to either increasing or decreasing our mitigation measures based on the circumstances and the conditions. So we are not going into this reckless. We are not being naive to the fact that COVID exists, and we will have positive cases that exist in our system. So we are tracking the data, as I had said, and we will use a layered approach, which may include increasing our current measures or adding new measures or decreasing, depending on what the data says. Our instructional format that's in place now may morph as well. And so we know where we were last year, so we know we can do that. But where we're starting and where the board asked us to start is in person, and our resources focused on in person, and that's what we're doing. And we will be prepared to pivot if we need to. I didn't think I'd have to use the word pivotability again this year, but I'm using that word, pivotability. We will and most likely need to pivot, either increasing our mitigation measures or decreasing. We were all hoping, I think, as a community, as a state, as a nation, that we would not be here, but we are here. And what we have demonstrated in Cedarburg is that we can pivot, and we will pivot as needed to ensure that we continue to provide access, quality, and safety to all our students. Board members, that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions you may have. All of this information is on our website, and our website continues to grow and change and evolve as we add more information. The information that I presented tonight will be added to our website as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have one question. I know we've taken a lot of emails from the community, a lot of concern from parents for that K through 8, really that 0 through 12 age group who are unvaccinated and don't have access to vaccinations. And I know we made our mitigation efforts last year in the hopes that we'd be in a different place than we are now with potential increase, although I know on the Washington County Health Department, the trajectory is going down, so that's good. But I do have concern with that younger age group. We need to protect them, that's our job. Make sure that they're healthy, they can stay in school. We're gonna be in school, right? We don't want that virtual option, we want our students here where they learn best. So I would like the board to have additional consideration and conversation around, maybe we're not gonna make any changes, but let's make sure that we're paying close attention, especially to that age group, knowing that they don't have access to vaccinations. So I know we don't have any motions or anything in play, but I think we owe it to those parents that are concerned, as well as to those students, to understand what we will do if we have to. So I'm glad we're entering the school year and we have our mitigation efforts, we have cleaning, we have the abundance of what we put in place last year, but we just need to be prepared and not caught off guard. And I think we did a really good job last year with making sure we were always ready for the next step if we had to go there. So I just have a little concern with that, and if there is some sort of increase in burden, right, we need to make sure that we're ready to pivot. And what is our stance as a board? We owe that to our community, regardless what line they stand on with the mask debate. But it's important that we keep our students healthy, and that's number one.
Correct.
Right, keep them in and keep them healthy.
Yeah, I think that's on top of saying that we have to stay on top of things, and no one knows what's going to happen.
Right.
And we're not in an environment where we can set things in stone and expect them to stay. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we're going to be constantly evaluating. Absolutely.
Yep.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Is that it, Todd? Yep. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is public comment, and the public comment tonight is limited to any comment directly relating to the special education model procedures. Does anyone wish to comment on those procedures? All right. And this involves it's directly related.
question regarding that? Yeah.
Okay, directly regarding the special education.
It's directly regarding the special education. I am
Excellent.
not,
Then may I
I
read a
know how to
disclaimer?
listen.
May I read a disclaimer to you, please?
sure.
All right. Am I starting at the top, very top here, or am I going to here? Because this is where we usually start. Right here? Yeah, okay. All right. I have to read this long statement, so bear with me. In the past, the state attorney general issued guidance on how governmental bodies such as school boards should conduct the public comment portions of their meetings. This guidance was given to assist the governmental bodies in avoiding violation of the state's open meetings laws. The essence of the guidance is that unless the topic being brought to the board by the public is listed on the meeting's agenda, no significant discussion can be held on that item. And in this case, we have limited that to the Special Education Model Procedure Handbook. Instead, a topic may be listed as an item on a future agenda whereby discussion could then be held. The reason for this guidance is not to limit open discussion, but rather to ensure that all interested parties have equal opportunity to participate in the discussions with the full school board. We on the school board encourage community input, and we want to hear from you, our constituents. However, we also take the state's open meetings laws seriously and will follow the guidance as outlined by the state attorney general. Therefore, if an item is listed on tonight's agenda, item number 7, open dialogue may occur between the individual from the public and the board members. If it is not listed in item number 7, the board will be limited to listening only. Actually, no, it won't, because we're not even going to be entertaining that. The board is not able to respond to comments or questions. Okay, so if this, I'm reading a statement from before. So if it is not listed in item number 7, the board will be limited to listening only and will not be able to respond to comments or questions. But we're not taking comment on anything other than number 7, which is the Special Education Model Procedures. Furthermore, per Board Policy 0144.2, the board will respect the confidentiality of information that is privileged under applicable laws. This includes, but is not limited to, information under current or imminent litigation and or student-specific information per policy 8330. If your item is not listed on tonight's agenda in item number 7, and you want to have a discussion regarding the topic, you're encouraged to contact the district superintendent and request that your item be listed on a future meeting agenda. As always, you are encouraged to discuss any issue with individual board members on a one-on-one basis outside of the meeting setting. Please make your comments to the board and not to any individuals in the audience. As per School Board Policy 167.3, each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that this is a public meeting, and we ask everyone to address one another with the courtesy and respect you would like to receive in return. When you approach the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. If you're under the age of 18 or a student in Cedarburg schools, please state only your first name. As a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed via the district's YouTube channel and will be posted on the district's website. Do we have somebody timing?
Don't worry, I won't go even near the 3 minutes this time.
Okay.
I promise, Mr. Kerr. So my name is Jessie Machambu. I live at 2339 West Custer Avenue. My son will be staying in Cedarburg School District. My husband was like, you guys can chase us out of the community, but you're not going to chase my son out of the only school he's ever known. So he's still here. I have a question. The last few board meetings, you have not allowed public comment on anything except a special agenda item. If I have a concern about this specific agenda item that I'm allowed to speak on tonight, and it does not come up again, what am I supposed to do? If you continue this trend of not allowing the community to tell you what our concerns are. We can email you and we can call you, but we get the same generic response from you, from you, from you, and from you.
So what is
What
your
are we
comment
supposed to
on
do?
the Special Education Model
Yeah,
Procedures?
what am I supposed to do if something comes up? Because I'm sure this will come up again. If I have a concern, because we all know you guys don't care about racial hostility in the school, even though I will go to administration and talk about it, I've had to come to the board and address my concerns. What if something comes up? My son is on an IEP program. If something comes up and nobody is helping me in the district, and the only option I have is to come to you guys, if you guys continue this trend of not listening to the parents, what am I supposed to do? That's my question for all of you. What am I supposed to do? What are other parents supposed to do? That's it.
Okay, thank you.
So you don't have an answer?
Thank you.
Oh, okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
I didn't see anyone else. Oh, do you have a-
I have a question on this, like I understand, you can't talk about anything else?
Well, sir, yeah, please, yeah, I want to make sure we're doing this fairly.
State your name and address too.
Sure. Joseph Pierkowski, 325 Juniper Drive. On the website, I had to fill out a form to be able to come and talk tonight, and it says that no public comment on, or it has to be a public comment on the agenda item or any matter relevant to district operations. To me, I would consider talking about the mask mandate, or what she would like to talk about as something that impacts district operations.
Well, I guess I'm not
So it's
sure.
inconsistent with what you're saying and what's on your site, where you have to fill out a form
Well,
to be able to speak here.
all right, well, I apologize for the inconsistency, but we have to do what's noticed on our, for the public, so.
But in the notes for the meeting, it says to fill out this form, and on the form, it says to do this.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. We noticed this for public comment on the special
This,
education model.
this seems like it helps protect you, but not protect everyone here.
Okay, do you have a comment, sir, on the special education model procedures?
No, I don't think
Okay.
anyone here does.
Okay, thank you. That's all we can take comment on today, I'm sorry. Please, if you want to address the board, please step up to the podium.
My name's Connie Kincaid, and 75W7255 Linden Street. I really am just coming up because I had planned on not speaking, and I just wanted to confirm that the email I sent asking that it be forwarded prior to this meeting for you all to look at and read through, that did in fact address several items in the policies, that you had actually read through that. So I'm just standing here to confirm that, to ask you if you had received that email, if you had read through those very specific questions, and if you're prepared to ask those questions prior to the manual being approved. That's it. If you had not, I can go ahead and read my email. I believe it's under 3 minutes, but I understand that there's a time limit.
Yeah, I personally did receive your email, and I only had time to skim it though.
Okay.
So I don't know if anyone else did.
I think my proposal would be, I know Ted's going to speak to this item, and Ted, I believe Connie was also in receipt of that
He
email,
was
and
able to
certainly
give
can
me a
provide
call,
some
which was
guidance
fantastic.
regarding those responses.
I really just want to understand as a parent
Yep.
what the time frame is to get those questions to you board members before a meeting, so that you have the opportunity to read and ask those questions that a parent would like to, because you are representative of my child is under the care of your decisions. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Connie.
Connie.
If anyone wants to, yes, please step up and provide your name and address.
Yes, my name is Jennifer Meldman, and I live at 300 Bobolink Avenue in Grafton. And I'm not fully sure what the special education procedure model is. I don't have access to that, or I did not do my due diligence, I suppose. But I am wondering if the review of the special education procedures is going to be impacted by the fact that a week and a half before school is beginning, that we have 10 vacancies for special education currently. We have 4 special education aides positions at the high schools that are vacant. We have 1 full-time special aid position, special education position at the high school that is vacant. We have 1 60% full-time education special aid education teacher needed at the high school. We have 2 paraprofessionals at Webster that we have not been filled, and there have been 2 special education aides at Parkview that have not been filled. These have been posted for quite some time, and I'm wondering what the board, if you're going to have a special education procedures and vote on them, I don't know how we can actually do these students justice if we are not able to hire the help that is needed. And perhaps we need to look at why we aren't able to fill these positions. Is it because of pay, or is it because, like me, who I've been a teacher for many years, who would love to go back to work, I'm reluctant to go back into the classroom because I have a 11, almost 12-year-old who has not yet been vaccinated, and I have immunocompromised parents. So why is it that we don't have these positions, and how are we going to adequately treat these students that need help? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so Ted is going to speak to these. Okay, so Ted's going to speak to these items. You have a comment directly relating to the special education model procedures?
Kate Erickson, West 16 North, 982 Glenwood Drive. So I read over the 85-page document, and I have the same concerns. Obviously, IEPs are to be reviewed regularly if we don't have adequate staff. Those IEPs cannot obviously be renewed, and therefore we are not giving the quality of education that students deserve. When we're looking at our special education students, quite a few of them do have medical concerns, and they also have rights under this document to be educated alongside of their peers. If you go to pages 84 and 85, the last few pages, they defined definition of serious bodily injury, which includes the definitions of substantial risk of death, extreme physical pain, protracted and obvious disfigurement, protracted loss or impairment of the function of body, member, organ, or mental faculty. The term bodily injury means a cut, abrasion, bruise, burn, disfigurement, physical pain, illness, impairment of the function of a bodily member, organ, or mental faculty, or any other injury to the body, no matter how temporary. We are supposed to be, under the last section, 20 U.S.C. 7801-37, looking at these things through the definition of scientifically based research. The term scientifically based research, as stated in the document, means research that involves the application of rigorous, systemic, and objective procedures to obtain reliable and valid knowledge relevant to the education activities and programs that include systematic empirical methods that draw on observation or experiment, and so on. What is being done to maintain the proper educational standards for these students with IEPs, as well as to make sure that they are maintaining their levels of health? If they have the right to be educated in the classroom alongside the peers of their grade level, and may be immunocompromised and not able to have the vaccine, how can you guarantee their safety? Is this going to be a, well, let's wait and see and then pivot after someone gets sick, or is this going to be something that's taken care of proactively versus reactively? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So Ted?
Please do it. I think that's a presentation coming up, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now we're going on to recommendations. Dave, is that true?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, recommendations. We'll go to recommendations, Ted.
So now we're moving on to section 7, which is recommendations. The recommendations, the board may take action regarding special education model procedures. Ted Knoll, our Director of Pupil Services, can speak to those procedures. These are something that are approved annually, and I don't want to steal your thunder, Ted, but they have guided districts for a number of years and have guided us as well. And we use that as the framework for our special education program.
Yep. And I take no blame nor credit for the manual. This is given to us by the Department of Public Instruction, and we have to adopt it as it is. The only change to it as it presented by the state is I put our logo on the front cover and our school district. Nothing in that manual has been changed per DPI and federal guide requirements. So it is as presented, and anybody that wants to see it can go on the DPI website and take a look at the manual. It comes straight down, that's downloaded, and and presented to the board in that manner. And by policy 2460, it's required to be approved annually. So that is why I'm bringing it to the board tonight, as I've done in the past.
Thank you. Do you need a
I need a motion to accept.
Need a motion?
So moved. Kennedy.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the next item is committee reports. There are no committee reports, I'm told, and because we're not having an executive session, I can take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Oh, did someone make a motion?
I second.
Did anyone move?
I would move to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn. Got a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.